Hello, everybody. My name is Keenan Hardert. I'm a professor at Minnesota State University, and I research cancer as well as biology education data. So, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to use pairwise comparisons in Prism and utilize their compact letter display significance tools. The other things that we will kind of run through, t-test basics, ANOVA basics, and then how to really make those sharp. This is really important because having multiple groups of data is always going to be one of the keys of kind of getting across bigger projects. This is one of those ways to visually communicate that very effectively. And, for any report or presentation, this is going to make a large difference for us. So as I go into Prism, I have loaded this in the column format. In this case, if I had a couple groups here, so I'm interested in my teaching research in this case, I have students that never came to a review session, and I have students that came to 4 or more review sessions. Okay, so that's not too bad. This is your basic t-test setup. I would say here, my data right here in the column format. I'm a big fan of the individual points. I don't mind that because they really do show everything. In the column format, you'll have your choice of variance as well. I could do mean with standard deviation or the median with the 95% confidence interval like I just had. Either way, it's good. Box and violins offer a lot of great looks too. And one of my favorites, even if you want to simplify a lot of data, these are always one of my favorites too. But for our case, the individual values I don't mind. In this case, we can kind of spread things out here a bit. I'm going to say final, final, I think final class percent. Here's how everybody did. So I would go through best practices graphing if this was that video, but in this case, I'll just keep things pretty basic right here. So I want to compare these two groups. First thing we can go, there's a shortcut right up here, compare two groups with a t-test. You can also always go to analyze and say, hey, I want to go to column analysis. Here are my tests I want to perform here. In this case, a t-test is perfectly fine. We have two groups. In this case, these are unpaired data because each row, as Prism shows you, is not connected. These are just two separate groups. These are not like a before and after style. So no, we are doing unpaired. And then we are also going to assume that this is an unpaired test with a Welch's correction. What Welch's does is assume that the standard deviation is not the same in each group. And that's actually a pretty safe test to do, so I would go with this one. So running through this exam, perfect. We have a Welch's t-test, we have p-value significance, excellent. And Prism's tools to make sure that you can show that significance are right up here. You can go ahead and add form-wise kind of significance setup right here. You can also begin to use compact letter display. However, with two groups, all this is showing is that this group right here is considered A, this is considered B, and thus they are different groups significantly. In this case, the asterisks kind of speak that there's a significant difference. However, if we wanted to do things a little different and we wanted to say, hey, I want to start over, and this time, I don't want to leave out all the people in my data set that actually only came to one review, or maybe two, or maybe three reviews, right? So let's take a look here. If I want to do more data right here, give this a shot. Here's all the student setups right here. I'm going to say 4+ reviews that they came to either office hours or something like that, and their final grades. So now in here on these data, obviously things are a little denser with the individual plots. I would maybe make those a little sharper in this case, but key criteria of this video is how are we going to compare these multiple groups right here? So similar to the t-test, there is a shortcut for column data that will take you to ANOVAs right here. Again, you can also find this in the Analyze tab, but I'll go ahead and click right here. So again, very similar to a t-test. There is no matching or pairing. These are just raw groups. As you saw in the data setup, these are just chunks of data in each group, and they can be different. So similar to the same test that we just did with the Welch, again, we can say we do not want to assume that the standard deviations of each group are different, or the same. So in this case, what we're going to run, an ANOVA will tell us as a sort of a raw amount, is there significant difference across the board collectively? But what we really want right here is multiple comparisons. I do want to compare the mean of every column to every other column in this case. I want to know exactly if 2 reviews was better than 0 reviews, or if 2 reviews was better than 1 review, right? This is going to give us a great sort of collective look at which groups are going through and significant. So let's run through this test. I'm just going to do a standard test, so it's not too bad. Options, it's going to give you a few right here. I would recommend whatever your field says, but the 2-key is great. Home site ec, again, I've used that before in that case. So I'm going to run this through. The overall ANOVA will come through. It is significant across the board with this data. There is significance in some of these, in one of these groups at the least. But in here, we have some great looks at, there are certain groups that were significant despite the multiple hypothesis testing. And it looks like, yeah, if you went to 4+ reviews, you were better if you went to 1 or 0. So here's where compact letter display really shines. If I add pairwise comparisons for my ANOVA, that's a lot. And it's still fine if you want to delete these non-significants, because it is assumed if there is none, if there is no bar between the two, that they are not significant, right? But in this case, sometimes these can get a little busy. This is where compact letter display really shines. So the 4 review group is considered A in this case. These two right here with 3 reviews and 2 reviews are, in this case, they're designated that they are not equal to A, but they are in the same realm as A. This means that this group right here, this A, is different than this one and this one. Like we saw with the pairwise that we just got rid of, these were both significant right there. Similarly, with 2 reviews and 3 reviews, these were not significant between either group, hence why they can be A and B in this case. So compact letter display is a very clean mechanism for showing significance across group and pairwise comparisons. One of my favorite ways to display a lot of data at once. So thank you for watching.